Hey everybody, Heather Andrews, the Andrews Insurance Agency, and I just want to thank you for the opportunity to allowing us to quote your home. I just want to go over some basic stuff, a lot of our questions that we get asked, just to help make it a little bit easier for you to understand your quote. So first of all, we've sent you a couple little cheat sheets. One is going over every coverage that we have, and it puts it in our language. Like instead of coverage A, dwelling, it explains that that's the house, that rebuild cost up to the limits, things like that. So we put one of those in there to help you break down the coverages. We also have a frequently asked questions, and you'll be surprised how many times that can answer your questions. So if you can look over those two and then watch our video. And if you still have questions, we're always here to help, but our goal is to answer all your questions as soon as possible. I know sometimes you don't have the time to look at your quotes until it's late at night and you want your questions answered. So that's the idea of the video, was try to help you understand your quote and understand what you're looking at, so you can come with us with the questions to help you understand completely. So always remember, for me, fastest is email for responding, but feel free, if you're a phone, you like the phone, you want to talk on the phone, feel free to give me a call. I'll be happy to get you taken care of. So one of the things is a lot of people have is the question between the bare bone quote, which we do not recommend, and the fuller quote. The reason we send a bare bone quote, because we get all these people all the time, well, so and so beat you. I'm like, okay, do you mind if I see the quote? A lot of times they have no coverage at all. It's the same carrier that we have, or a different carrier that was actually more for us, but they cut the coverages out, and they think it's more affordable. So we send a bare bone to kind of do the bare minimum to show you, but it's you don't want that policy. A lot of times you have to go with that policy because insurance is so expensive these days. We completely understand. But you're missing some coverages that really aren't that expensive that are going to help you down the road. Like, for example, water backup, 90% of the time, depending on the carrier, like Universal, it's sometimes more, is usually $25 for the whole year. And that's going to cover if your sink or toilet overflows up to $5,000 of water damage. So those are the little things that we want to make sure that you have, because we've been in the business long enough. We've seen the claims happen, and these are the items that most people wish they had or glad they had. So that's why we put them in there, but we're not big on selling bells and whistles. That's not us, because we're going to talk you how to making that claim, because it's going to follow you around for 5 years, and then you're going to really be upset. So our goal is to save you money in the long run, things like that. So one of the biggest things between the bare bone and the fuller quote is the fuller quote is going to have water backup, like we talked about. If a sink or toilet overflows, it will cover up to $5,000. It's going to have higher liability. So we usually go to the max the carrier will allow. Universal does max out at 300. Citizens maxes out at 100,000. Edison and Florida Penn max out at 400,000 for their liability. But if you guys want higher liability, let us know. We can do excess liability, or we can do an umbrella and combine it and bundle it with your auto. So those are some options there as well. Another thing that's different is replacement cost. So you're going to see your contents are the same on both. Your coverage C, your contents are the same. That's if you take your house, flip it over and shake it, everything that falls out is considered your contents. So if you just have contents, that's at a depreciated value. So that means they take your value, subtract the years, and take a percentage off of it. So we always use the example, without personal property replacement costs, it's like shopping at Goodwill. With personal property replacement costs, it's like going to Macy's, because that TV you bought 5 years ago, you can now get a replacement cost at Best Buy right now. Without that, it's going to depreciate it, and it's going to give you the value they feel the TV is worth now with depreciation. I'll tell you, no one agrees on that price of depreciation ever. So if you want to pay a little extra for replacement, then you're going to get replacement costs. You can get brand new things if there is an item. So those are one of the things, the difference between the bare bone and the fuller. If you just have one quote, it's because Citizens doesn't allow us to do bare bone or anything, because they're pretty much bare bone the way it is. Excuse me. And then some of our other carriers, the analytics will time out. So that's why if you only received one quote, that is why. Now, we also sent a flood quote. We send a flood quote with every quote that we do. A lot of people say I'm not in a flood zone. The whole state of Florida is in a flood zone. So you're incorrect when you say you're not in a flood zone. So you're in an X zone or an AE zone, and there's a few zones in between there. So if you're in an AE zone, your lender requires you to have flood. If you do not have a lender, some of our carriers require you to have flood. And in Citizens, if you're in an X zone, they require you to have flood as well if your house is over 500,000. So you will be required to have flood in an X zone with Citizens and an AE zone. So those are the reasons. And then when we go to buying, we'll talk about that in a second, we'll ask you to accept or decline that. Another question that we get a lot is the dwelling. I bought a $2 million house. You're only insuring it for 1.3. So I use the example every single time. We do not insure on value. So you can have a house on Anna Marie Island, and it can be on the beach and say it's worth $2 million. Take that same house and put it in Mayaca, and it's probably worth $500,000. But to rebuild both of those houses, because they're exactly the same, it's going to be the same amount. So value does not go into key. Value is land, lot, location, supply and demand, and amenities. So you're gated, you're close to Lakewood Ranch, you're close to downtown Sarasota, you're close to something that's worth value. So we're not insuring on value. And a lot of times when we read your renewal, would automatically reshop if it's 35% or higher. And a lot of times people come back, well, with the market, my house should be raised because the value's more. We're still on the rebuild. So you'll see your policy will automatically increase the dwellings amount each year on renewal because inflation. But we only worry about rebuilding the dwelling as it stands right then and there. If you do not agree and want it higher, we'll be glad to see what we can do to get it higher. A lower is more difficult because we have to stay within our RCE, or the carrier will decline it. And what an RCE is, a rebuild cost estimator. We pull everything from the appraisal site, and that's how we get your RCE. We usually add a little extra to it just to be safe because there might be something that we can't see. So those are a little bit of cheat information for our quotes that we just sent over to you. And then if you have any questions, please let us know. We're happy to help. Now, once you're ready to bind, let us know. So what we'll need from you, we do need it in an email. Okay, you can call and go over everything with us. That's fine. We're still going to tell you to send us an email. And the reason why is because we have so many people who are like, yeah, bind, do it. And then we bind it. Some of our policies are earned, or we have to have more information. So if we have it in writing from you, we know that we're all on the same page. We know exactly what quote you want, exactly what you accept or decline, and we put it in your file so there's no confusion. So it helps when everyone's on the same page. So when you're ready to bind, you're going to send us which quote you would like to go with the value amount, accept or decline the flood. If you have a lender, send us your lender's email address. I will copy you on everything when I send it out to the lender to get the information we need. If it's a cash transaction, we need the same thing, except you just need to call us with a form of payment. Just remember, most carriers will charge a 3% fee for credit cards. The only carriers that do not are American Integrity, Edison, Florida Penn. The rest will charge you a 3% for your credit card. Account and routing number is free. And then Neptune will always charge you $2.50 just because it's their processing. Not a fan. I'm like, put that in the quote, might be helpful. But those are some of the things that can help you. But feel free to let us know if you have any questions. We are always here to help, and we will get you taken care of. So congratulations on your new home, or just thank you for allowing us to quote your rollover. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much, and have a great day.